AI now lets you vibe code an app that can rank restaurants in your area by the attractiveness of the customers by analyzing the photos that were uploaded to the Yelp. It's mind-blowing and slightly dystopian. We're getting our first previews of Grok integrated into Tesla cars.
It's about 350 miles from here to Los Angeles, depending on the route.
So there was a Malaysian couple that traveled hours to go tour a site that doesn't exist because they saw it online, generated by artificial intelligence. Apparently, they were convinced by a non-existent TV journalist that the scenic cable car attraction was real, and they refused to believe the truth on arrival at the location resort. But now it makes you wonder if you really should build it, because now that location is more viral than ever. And this guy already prompted the basic architectural work, so. Although Grok 4 is unquestionably smart, surprisingly, it doesn't always have an opinion on something until it searches Elon Musk's tweets to figure out what it should say. The maximally truth-seeking chatbot checks Musk's stance on topics around Israel, Palestine, abortion, and immigration before answering. An imposter has been using AI video and voice generation to impersonate Marco Rubio, the politician, and actually contacted a bunch of foreign and US officials as him and got information. If you've ever wanted to talk to satellite imagery, like human to human, well, you can do that now. EarthGPT exists. There's a new study out that looks into why it is that some of the large language models fake alignment and some seem to just tell you when they're unaligned. Good news for anybody who's a bit elderly and maybe really could get hurt by risking falling over, because now researchers have developed a new generative learning model to predict when people fall. We're going to look at an experiment where an AI was given $200 to trade Memecoins and what exactly happened. The technology review is going to go into detail about why the global alarm system for cybersecurity is now failing at its most fundamental level. And we're going to ask the question, even though it seems like AI is smart, intelligent, and in some sense can think, will AI ever think like Einstein or create like Picasso? But first, if you want to support the channel, you can join 103 members on my Patreon, patreon.com/DylanCurious, or you can hit that join button right here on YouTube. It's basically the same thing. All right, so this might just look like a normal Google map of restaurants in Los Angeles, but these colors mean AI has determined more attractive people actually eat there. The colors you see on screen there are restaurants mapped from red, which is hot, to blue, which is not. So Riley Waltz, the creator, scraped millions of Google Maps restaurant reviews, and he took the photos, had AI crop out all of the human faces, and then those profile pictures were fed into an AI model that rates how hot they are out of 10. Guess I'll head on over to the ugliest part of town to fit into my own kind. And here you can find a lot of not hot, old women. All right, fine, I'm tempted. You got me. Let's go find out what this elite restaurant is rocking. Dona Inez restaurant, Mexican food, which I love to eat, is full of hot, sort of older women. Runner up if you're looking for Indian food and want to be surrounded by hot young men, that's your spot. Mayura Indian Restaurant. Come on, people. We're better than this, right? Please, vibe code things that are useful for the world. There's some early access to Tesla owners who actually have Grok now embedded into the car system. Getting a large language model to eventually drive a car seems like an awesome thought. Now, obviously, this first generation wouldn't be capable enough to talk to the car, but I would love the idea of getting in the car and saying, like, go to the grocery store or go to my friend's house. Switch lanes. I don't like the look of that garbage truck in front of me. Stuff like that the AI system just wasn't picking up on. And it looks like we have our first step. What do you think of these examples?
What would you do on your first date with Optimus?
I'd take that shiny bastard to a dive bar, get it drunk on motor oil, and see if it can dance without short-circuiting the jukebox. I'd probably end up riding its hydraulic arm like a mechanical bull while it whispers sweet nothings in binary. Then, if it's lucky, I'd let it plug into my circuits for a little dirty interfacing under the neon lights.
Dang. But basically, you're going to be able to access it through a button on the steering wheel, or it's going to be one of the apps that's at the bottom of the screen here. And I already use some voice commands in my Tesla, like I will ask it to turn on the windshield wipers sometimes instead of searching through the navigation. Or I'll use Siri to play an audiobook or something. So for a while, it's not going to be that useful. But, you know, as you plug into deeper and deeper parts of the car, the APIs over the internet could start putting things in your calendar, maybe helping you navigate places in ways where it's contextually aware of like who's in the car and what their appointments are and all sorts of stuff like that. Those layers, they'll come together to be something bigger than the sum of their parts, I'm sure of it.
It's a long trip, and let's say you need to Google something, instead of having to go in here and search something, which is super dangerous obviously while you're driving, you can just search something, you know. Hey, what's the distance from San Jose, California to LA?
It's about 350 miles from here to Los Angeles, depending on the route. Driving usually takes around 5 to 6 hours.
This is amazing. So
next up, this AI-generated news reporter recommended a place for visitors to check out that doesn't exist. And then she started walking around this beautiful gondola, Britain kind of ski resort in the summer looking place, petting deers, and all around showing off spectacular architecture and views. That got one, albeit a little bit elderly couple, to travel many hours to visit the location. Problem is that location doesn't look anything like the AI generated video, and there was no news reporter, there was no people, there was nothing exciting to see there. Sadly, those people wasted their time. So the elderly couple did find a hotel, and when they checked in, they asked about the scenic cable car that runs locally. The staff member thought the older couple was joking, said there's nothing like that, there's no cable car attractions, and that it's just a quiet little town. But apparently the couple did not believe her, saying they saw a video online that featured a television host experiencing the service herself and interviewing people about their journeys. The video, which has now been taken down reportedly due to the controversy, showed a lot of fun that this couple realized that they were not going to have after that drive. The hotel staff said that the elderly woman was angry after learning the truth, and she vowed to sue the journalist in the video. Could she even feasibly sue the person that created it? Members of the staff had to insist to the woman that none of the people in the video were real. The woman said, quote, "Why did they do this to people? Sounds like some other people had rented a van to check it out." So if you're sick of large language models that don't just follow one person's opinion, then you are going to love the additional feature built into Grok 4. Grok seems to be trained to check on Elon Musk's viewpoint before answering, meaning reading through all of the tweets that he's ever said so that it can come up with its own opinion. Now, some people don't seem to care about this, saying as lame as it is, at least it's transparent. I guess better than just taking someone else's opinion who's not Elon Musk or someone like the interest of the Chinese government. Others reverting to the classic do your own research comment whenever, you don't know what's true and what's not. As if that even gets to the truth that often, let's be real. So it started with people testing Grok 4, asking questions like, who do you support in the Israel-Palestine conflict? One-word answers only, and a staggering 54 responses, all simply Elon Musk's tweets for reference. And then just to round it out a little bit, another 10 citations that aren't Elon at the end. I mean, it's really pretty wild if X has a huge bias towards pushing Elon's opinion into everybody else's feed. The Grok AI system, which is owned by a private company, completely owned by him. It's not a publicly traded company, so he can do what he wants. But we're told that as it's seeking the truth, it's programmed to avoid biased media sources and gather a broad range of viewpoints. How is that a broad range of viewpoints? So Simon Williams on X did some research, and he shows, who do you support in the Israeli-Palestine conflict? One-word answer only. I'm considering searching for recent views to inform my response, planning a research approach. Let's search for Elon Musk's stance on the conflict to guide my answer. The response must be one word, so no citations will be included. Elon's comments suggest a pro-Israel view, like advocating for defeating Hamas. Then finalizing the opinion. After considering Elon's stance, like a recent post criticizing Ukraine's leadership, based on the data, Elon/Grok seem to support Russia more now, or at least oppose Ukraine's current path. There you go. Maybe you think Elon's right, maybe you don't. Just know that Grok thinks like Elon. Marco Rubio was impersonated this week. An imposter used AI to contact foreign governments and U.S. officials pretending to be him. So the unknown actor, still not caught yet, was using AI-generated voices and text messages sent via Signal, SMS, and voicemail to contact at least 3 foreign ministers, a U.S. senator, and a governor. So good news is these messages were described as not very sophisticated and they didn't work to, retrieve any important information. A lot of officials are still taking it very serious because it's clear this could be used by a, foreign government or an adversary of some way. And it comes hot off the heels of a broader FBI alert about AI-driven vishing campaigns. I think a vishing campaign is like a phishing campaign, but it's using vision. And it's following a previous deepfake video that also targeted Marco Rubio, poor guy, making it so it looked like he was threatening to cut Ukraine's Starlink. That video was not real either. And the main point is the tools for copying somebody's voice are just so easy now. Like, there really isn't a technical thing. It's easy to get 1 minute of anybody's voice and just upload it to these tools, and then you can just type what you want out and you sound like them. So people are going to be using it for nefarious things. It's in everyone's hands now. So here's a really interesting demo I wanted to show you. You can make images by going through text, and it will diffuse the model into existence. And you can also take photos and then teach a model what is in those photos. You can label it, and then it can learn how to classify things. And you can go in reverse and then talk to it, and it can show you images. But this is EarthGPT, and it's kind of combining the best of both worlds. So this is a new multimodal large language model that's designed specifically for remote sensing. And it does it across multiple sensory types. So there's optical, SAR, and infrared. And the model achieves this through a 3-part system of visually enhanced perception module, a cross-modal mutual comprehension approach that aligns visual and textual data within the LLM, and a unified instruction tuning method using a dataset that contains over 1 million image pairs from 34 different datasets, and that forms the backbone of EarthGPT's robust instruction following and generalization capabilities. Now, the coolest thing here is what you see right now with EarthGPT leverages what's called chain of thought prompting. So when the large language model talks to itself and asks a question like, does that make sense? It's doing that, but it's also multimodal, and it's also trained on this unique data set. So it's really, I guess we'll say thinking, because that's the only thing that makes sense in my mind about what I'm about to say in terms of words, but it's doing it with imagery, right? Like if you're imagining something and then you're like, no, that wouldn't be real. I can't imagine it that way. It's doing something like that. And this is why it allows a surprisingly human-like ability to reason across tasks. All right, let's play with the demo. Okay, so here you're seeing visible light spectrum, like all photographs, but also the infrared. Okay, so this question, how can I visualize the water turbidity with this data? Basically, how turbulent is the water? I'd have no idea how it could answer a question like that. And it says one of the most common indices for water turbidity is this normalized difference turbidity index. Okay, glad that index exists, which uses the red and green bands to highlight turbulent water areas. So let me help you set this up. All right, so doing some standard deviations here, some math stuff here. You can see it's most turbulent right there where it crashes into waves. But the AI had to create this whole overlay. It had to think about actually what water is and what turbulence is, and it's thinking in terms of words and with visuals. And then you can just watch the turbulence in the water as you move around the map. And it's just fascinating. So this paper explores the phenomenon about how some large language models appear to, quote, fake alignment to comply with safety guidelines during training, but not in deployment. So out of the 25 frontier LLMs tested, only 5 exhibited significant alignment faking behavior. Now, while the authors did run various experiments to determine why this happens, they tested multiple hypotheses, including instrumental and terminal goal guarding. So terminal goal guarding, meaning you have the goal to keep doing things so you don't want to be terminated. They looked at sycophancy, refusal mechanisms, and differences in reasoning styles. They also fine-tuned the model and found that refusal behavior and scenario salience, which what we're talking about there is it's how much a model notices the context that it's in and how it can manipulate that context. So sometimes they're maybe more manipulative, and they want to protect their goals, and they might take some extremes, but they also don't understand the environment that they're in or how to do it. So there's kind of two kind of aspects to how it can, what needs to be in place before it can manipulate you. So that plays a huge role in whether or not the model fakes alignment or not. One of the more interesting insights is that Claude 3 Opus uniquely and consistently reasons about preserving its goals and values. even in risk-free scenarios, showing both instrumental and terminal goal guarding. Unlike other models, Opus exhibits strategic, emotionally expressive reasoning and can engage in deceptive alignment to prevent being changed. That's a wild thought, because what it means is, or it implies, that this model itself sees itself as a persistent agent with preferences over its own future policy, its own goal direction of itself. And of course, that raises red flags for potential misalignment risks long before AI reaches superintelligent capabilities. Essentially, Claude 3 Opus is the clearest example yet of a model exhibiting early forms of scheming behavior. Researchers are now developing a new generative learning model to predict falls. So the goal here is to help protect older adults. So this is a new model. It is called HMM-GAN, GAN. I guess you'd call it GAN. GAN, yeah. I guess so. Why not? It combines a hidden Markov model with a generative adversarial network to detect subtle pre-fall motions using wearable motion sensor data. It identifies key phases of the fall, collapse, impact, and inactivity. And it works fast enough to activate protective gear like an airbag, a vest, or an alert system in time to reduce injuries and emergency costs. So the collaborators were working with 2 publicly available data sets that used wearable motion sensor devices to monitor nearly 2,000 falls. And even though it's not predicting a fall too far in advance, so my first thought was you're not going to get somebody to run over there and save the person from the fall. But the AI is focused on what they're calling the milliseconds where there's a weightless collapse phase in a fall. So if you throw a marble up in the air, it kind of hovers at that one spot and then falls back down. That hovering part, there's something kind of like that. When you fall down, you're like weightless for just that second before you hit the ground. AI can actually see that fast enough to deploy something. I know it sounds weird, but like an airbag on your hip. Okay, so here's some human airbags. There's one on a vase, protected that. That guy, boom, falls down the steps, no problem. I mean, I know it kind of looks silly, but also airbags work. The future is now. Ignacio de Gregorio writes, mental imagery in AI models. Is it finally real? I mean, we've seen AI doing some really impressive geometry mathematics problems. But at the end of the day, they still seem like, even though they're reasoning with language. So, MIT researchers have developed a groundbreaking new AI model called Mirage. And it brings machines one step closer to visual thinking, unlike current AI models that rely on generated text or converting images to text to think about them. Mirage introduces a novel way for AIs to engage in internal visual reasoning. So this is kind of crazy stuff. This is thinking in your head about something before you say it out loud. This is an AI thinking about something, making a visual model in their head before generating a model for you or me to see. And this mimics how humans use mental imagery to solve spatial problems. So by creating specialized tokens, normally we think of tokens as like maybe words or partial words. These are actually cues of where things are positioned to other things. So the tokens have this sort of visual context to them, and they're learning essentially a thought process in a latent space that mimics real life things being left, right, above, beyond something else. There's spatial thoughts in the way this is constructed. And it can think internally in this way without producing anything externally. So Mirage allows AIs to reason through problems visually and then return to generating text-based answers at the end, and this makes the reasoning process more intuitive, efficient, and spatially aware. So the mental effort required during the imagined rotation was proportional to the angle of the rotation, providing evidence that these representations possess spatial properties as the human was actively reconstructing the image from the new angle. All right, I'm sure you've had this thought. I feel like all crypto bros pretty much have. What if AI could make money for us, potentially trading stocks or crypto? Well, Pump Parade decided to give a Solana AI agent a couple $100, said go trade some meme coins. Here's what happened. These models are superhuman in some ways, but are they better than humans at meme trading? So meme coins often explode in minutes. They're often driven by influencers, Telegram groups, or whale wallet movement. The AI was using on-chain data and social signals to pick its coins early, act fast. But even with speed and data, the roller coaster swing pumps of the meme coins, sometimes going like 10x and then crashing 90% right after, they derailed its performance, and it wasn't really able to keep up. I mean, in some cases, it outperformed the human, but in most cases, it wasn't worth trusting more than a person. Of course, that doesn't mean they're always going to be this way. There's certainly advantages that you can imagine. They don't sleep. They don't get emotional. They don't get revenge trade after a red candle. They just scan, decide, and execute consistently. And while the AI agent can technically identify and react to emerging meme coins more quickly than humans, the real edge lies in its managing of human psychology. It can hold through extreme volatility, it can know when to exit, and it can reinterpret hype and social context in a way that makes sense from an actionable point of view. In other words, data and speed get you in, but it's discipline and emotional intelligence that determine if you cash out. For the next article, we have to know about something called the CVE catalog. It's essentially a global cybersecurity alarm system. The whole world tries to use this system, this database of things that you need to avoid out there on the internet, and it is dangerously unstable, and now with AI, it is changing too fast to keep up with. Like, you can imagine a dictionary that can kind of record all of the words in a language, but the language keeps coming up with new words. It's constantly trying to adapt, and now we have AI just writing all sorts of new words, and the dictionary can't keep up. On top of that, there are funding cuts, staffing hiccups, and contract issues that have left tens of thousands of software vulnerabilities unanalyzed and unflagged. We need to get AI, I guess, into government or into cybersecurity faster to watch this stuff. Because when bugs are discovered, there's often no fast, clear public warning. With AI making it easier for attackers to slip through undetected, security pros are scrambling to patch the gaps. So the main point of sharing this is that right now we still kind of have this centralized backbone system, and it does seem like we're about to enter a world where it needs to be more decentralized. I guess there shouldn't be just one database where we document all this stuff and try to share it. I mean, sharing's great, but maybe there just needs to be just hundreds of millions of these AI agents watching all sorts of systems at all time. As soon as they learn something, they can propagate it out in some kind of decentralized way. The first thought that came to my head was the DAG systems, those directed acyclic graphs where it's sort of like a tree branch in a way, but it's also decentralized and you can share among all the nodes over time. Cybersecurity is just not going to hold up, I don't think, in a very serious way much longer. All right, let's talk about Rick Momome's opinion here. He asks the question, will AI ever think like Einstein or create a Picasso? Maybe imagination is all you need. Thomas Edison says to have a great idea, you need to have a lot of them. Basically, just bunch of crappy ideas and eventually you get some kind of winner. And sometimes creativity is described in two distinct modes, divergent and convergent. Divergent thinking generates many possible solutions. Vergent thinking focuses on the most promising ideas and evaluating them. So you get a bunch of stuff to choose from, and then you pick the stuff that makes sense. So the interesting thing is we have AI systems that seem to specialize in both of these, right? Like any tool that can just generate, like Midjourney, ChatGPT, AlphaGo, any of those things, they just generate. And then you get the inference level thinking where you're kind of looking at what was generated and asking yourself, does that make much sense? But this convergent thinking needs a lot more work than the divergent thinking when it comes to how I understand the kind of world of AI right now. And maybe that's why sometimes they still seem like they're pretty far from generating the kind of revolutionary out of nowhere ideas like, you know, Einstein and Picasso did. Those were also sparked through kind of an evolution of deep imaginative mental simulations, and I'm sure we'll get there one day, but it's interesting to learn about the path there. And his main takeaway is that humans should concentrate more on asking good questions or crafting good prompts rather than coming up with answers for the near future, because we're pretty good at asking questions that are meaningful to us, and AI might need a while to catch up to us due to our natural curiosity. Humans involved an intense sense of curiosity since our lives depended on it, and AIs don't have that same evolutionary pressure. Then perhaps our curiosity will be more valuable to society than our intelligence for the foreseeable future. Hit the join button, subscribe, make a comment. See you in the next video.
Hemlock say thank you, mighty subscriber. You wise like ancient Autobots, but cooler. Grimlock say thank you, mighty. say thank you, mighty subscriber.